At T-Mobile, our critical mission is providing unparalleled 5G coverage for when connectivity is mission critical. Introducing T-Priority, America's best 5G network experience for first responders, even in times of congestion. More capacity, faster speeds, better coverage. T-Priority from T-Mobile, built for tomorrow's emergencies, ready today. Discover more at t-priority.com.
For qualifying organizations on eligible rate plans, coverage not available in some areas and may be impacted by emergencies.
Every Pokemon Episode Ever podcast is now on YouTube. Go on YouTube and search Every Pokemon Episode Ever podcast and click that subscribe button to never miss an episode.
Hi, howdy, hello, and welcome to part one of your Thanksgiving treat as we are presenting a couple of back-to-back Pokemon specials. And on this first episode, we are presenting Dawn's New Journey. An episode that is full of indecision and education. So me on this little slice of an episode is none other than my good partner and my little note-taking buddy, Professor Chris G. How you doing tonight, sir?
I am great, my brother. How are you doing?
I'm perfect. That's the first time I've nailed one of these fucking...
Well, you got two tonight, so you better knock on wood wherever wood is by you right now.
I've been told not to hit myself down there.
And we're off to the races, everybody.
And the recording caught none of that.
So, yeah, but I'm good. These are some special episodes that we're doing. I just happened to find these episodes because it's old news now, but I guess this is the first podcast where we're actually going to talk about it. But we are officially on YouTube, my brother. And by the time you're hearing this, all of our archive is on YouTube. You can go on there and you can listen to the weekly podcast. So if you're not in your car anymore and you happen to go inside and you have YouTube TV, all you have to do is search Every Pokemon Episode Ever podcast and we will come up. Or you want to know how popular our podcast is, bro?
I do want to know how popular we are, but why does it sound like you're coming from a tunnel?
I have no idea. Do I sound echoey?
It sounds like you're like constantly moving back and forth.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I was swinging around in my gaming chair. My bad.
You can't be doing that.
But our podcast is so popular. I guess it's the way we kind of advertise our episodes. But when I went to start uploading our podcast onto YouTube, I had to each and every episode I had to Google like basically screen caps for each episode. I'm sorry, everybody. My throat's a little scratchy. I don't know why.
Because you've been yelling. That's right.
For real. So I had to get a screen grab for every single episode that we have ever done. Never want to do that shit again. Just want to throw that out there. I never want to go through all of this again. It's a lot. Once I'm done, I'm good with the one upload per week because it will only take me like 6 minutes. But other than that, it's just but on Google, if you Google the episodes of Pokemon, we come up in the like screen grabs of our podcast come up in the search, like in the photos. And,
oh shit!
Yeah, and I'm sure it's because we label the episodes the actual names of the episodes that we're doing. But we come up that way. We come up searches. We're back at number 10 as of this recording in the top Pokemon podcast in the entire world, everybody. So I just want to throw that out there. Hats off to everybody that has subscribed. And I did find out there are over 1,000. We have 1.2 thousand subscribers that have subscribed to our show via one feed that I was just looking at on the internet for people that listen to us. And I want to thank each and every one of you that do listen to us and that have stuck with us since day one, because it's very appreciative and it really does show. So I just want to throw that out there. I didn't send that to you because I wanted to get your impression, Doug, with me announcing that here on the show. It was just something I just happened to come upon when I was doing the YouTube gig.
Is that something that we control, or is that like some blueberry pie shit or whatever that one?
No. There's a website called FeedSpot, everybody, and
okay,
and they actually asked me to put out like a little snippet for them. So I'm glad you said that. FeedSpot is where podcasters or people in the news, they like to go to if they want to get word out about something. You can go through there. You can basically search their database for any and everything in the world, and it will pop up. And they have a section on there that is Top Pokemon Podcast. And it's the top 30 Pokemon podcast on there. And when you go on there and you go to ours, we are number 10 as of this recording on October 4th. I know you're hearing this on Thanksgiving. But if you go on there and then you click on the feed spot, it says on there from the data that they have collected all around the internet that we have 1.2 thousand subscribers for our podcast. So I just want to thank everybody out there.
Well, damn.
Yeah, I know. and I'm sure there's a lot more, and I know there's a lot more because of the numbers that pull in. But just for the 1,000 of you that are being tallied up just on the feed spot, I just want to thank all of you, and thank all of you that are not tallied up as well, because I know it doesn't get everybody depending on where you're listening to us.
No, but I'm sure in one way or another, if you've been on the internet and you've clicked on anything, you're being tracked. So I'm sure you're included in some list somewhere or another.
Yes. So
that sound you're hearing is the sound of thousands of people unhooking their devices.
Damn it, Doug, they're unsubscribing right now. You can't do that.
No, they're not unsubscribing. They're getting off the grid.
But yes, I wanted to throw that out there. It was a nice little tidbit. Again, you can search us on YouTube, on your YouTube TV, on Apple and Android devices, and or Fire Sticks, or wherever you watch your YouTube on your TV. You can now listen to our podcast, and our podcast videos will drop the same day as these episodes. So if you're in your car and you get to a certain spot, but you want to finish listening while you're cutting open your turkey, I don't know why you would want to listen to our voices while you're cutting turkey, but if you're cutting...
Whoa, hold on there. Hold on there a second.
Hey, I wouldn't want this.
You cut turkey?
You slice the turkey.
You carve turkey.
Carve turkey. Okay. You carve turkey. But yes, I don't know why
you over to your house. You're up there cutting turkey and shit.
No, not cutting turkey. But if you're cutting up your vegetables or you're eating and you're not watching football and you're like, I want to listen to these guys talk some Pokemon, you can now do it from the inside of your home while you're on your sofa. All you got to do is just search our podcast, and we're right there. Every single episode that we have done. And it's categorized, which is very clean.
The only problem with all that is the NFL pretty much has the whole day monopolized now. It used to be, when we were growing up, it was just a game at noon and a game at 3, but now there's a game at noon, a game at 3, and a game at 7:30. So we're do anything else, you're pretty much shit out of luck.
Yeah. You want to know? It's weird. Okay. We had a spike this past Sunday out of nowhere. Like normally Saturdays are a peak for us, but we had a peak on Saturday, but we had a major freaking peak this past Sunday. And I'm like, are you guys not watching football? Like, what is going on here? But I mean, I was happy to see it, but I was like, well, damn. Okay.
Looking across the league on Sunday, there wasn't too many games that like went down to the wire or anything.
No, but that Green Bay game and the Patriots game, that was a nice game. I mean, that went down
nice game
to overtime is what it did.
But I'm sick and goddamn tired of Green Bay getting fucking bailed out, especially at home.
They should not have won that game.
No.
They should not have won that game, but they did, and my brother-in-law was touting it. But man, they should not have won that game. But all right, everybody. But yes, you're listening to us talk about a game that was a month ago. So sorry, everybody. But yes, today we are.
Every time you do that, it trips with my head. I swear to God.
I know. I know. So, all right, everybody. So, as we stated in a previous episode, I just want to throw it back out there right before we jump into this episode. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. We are getting down to the wire. Christmas holiday, you will be getting a Detective Pikachu podcast, everybody. That will be exclusively on Patreon. And if you would like to hear that full review, make sure you go and subscribe at the beginning of the month, everybody, so you can listen to that podcast when it drops. So just make sure you go and do that. But
I'm very excited about that. I'm probably going to sit down and just do a regular watch of it. Well, shit, I was going to do it Saturday, but then I realized that's when the wrestling show is. So I might end up. I guess
do it
I could
on
do
Friday.
No, fuck that, because I got to watch She-Hulk.
Fucking She-Hulk is on Thursday.
Yeah, but I don't get around to it till this week. I didn't get to it until fucking yesterday. I wasn't fucking home.
I didn't get to it until today. me and my son finally sat down and watched last week's episode, and this episode was a freaking doozy. And spoiler alert, everybody. I mean, it's already over by the time you're listening to this podcast. But I knew that guy was up to no good that she slept with. I knew it. Yeah. I knew it.
Yeah.
So, but all right, everybody. You are here to listen to Pokemon. And we are going to start with Dawn's New Adventure, everybody. Or Dawn's new journey. Sorry, everybody. Sorry.
Like, don't you start with me. Don't you start, because that means we got to do the whole goddamn intro again, and that wouldn't do it, because that's your fault.
I know. My bad. Dawn, a New Journey is what the episode is called, everybody. And this goes head-to-head with the next episode, which features Brock, which you are going to hear tomorrow, everybody. But these are specials. They have absolutely nothing else to do with the series other than just updating you on what these Pokemon trainers are doing and what they have been up to. So are you ready to dive into these episodes, bro?
Definitely.
All right. So you can find these episodes online. All you got to do is just Google the title. The Japanese title for this is Hikari Setting Off on a New Journey is the Japanese title for this episode, and you will find it. It is on Pokeflix, someone was actually nice enough, and they did a really, really good job. Obviously, it's not the original actors, but someone dubbed these episodes in English, and you can watch it if you actually Google this. There's a Twitch feed. I can't really say who made it because they don't advertise their name, and I looked. But there's a Twitch version that has this. Hopefully, it's still up there. But you can go and actually watch this in English. And there's some pretty entertaining episodes as we're going through this. So you can still watch the episode with us. So without further ado, all right. And we are starting this episode with walking into Dawn's room. We see her mother. She is walking in, and the narrator has told us that Dawn has finished her adventure with Ash. And now that she is back home, the mother is walking in, and she's opening the blinds. It is sunny outside, and she's like, rise and shine, Dawn. And she's like, you've been sleeping for almost the whole day ever since you came back. And she's like, I know you want to take it slow, but not this slow. And she pulls the sheets back on Dawn's bed. And who is it but other than Piplup? And Piplup was sleeping in her bed. She wakes up Piplup, and she's like, oh, Piplup. Piplup's like, man, why are you waking me up? And then we go straight from that to Dawn is already outside with her Cyndaquil, and she tells Cyndaquil to use Swift Attack, and Cyndaquil does its Swift Attack, and then Flame Wheel, and she's just out here just training, and it looks like she's training it for one of those festivals. So she can get her festival ribbon. So gotcha. she's just training her Pokemon so she can go and get her next ribbon whenever she starts her next journey. And Cyndaquil is making a nice flame with the Swift Stars revolving around it. And then all of a sudden we see Dawn's mother come out, and she is saying, good morning. Doug, you want to take it from here?
Yeah, so we see we see the mother and Piplup are like, giving her applause, and Piplup's jumping up because it's a short little bugger, and she's like, it's a nice performance, and then she thinks about it, and she's like, but you didn't enter Cyndaquil for the festival. You didn't use Cyndaquil for the second round of the festival, did you? And she's like, yeah. And she's like, right, that's correct. Fuck me. She's like, that's correct. I was practicing a double move with my Togekiss and Piplup. And as this is going on, Cyndaquil goes over to Piplup and is like, kind of like, how is that shit? And Piplup was like, man, I've seen better. And Cyndaquil's kind of like, oh yeah. And then they start like a hockey fight kind of thing.
Just start swinging at each other.
And they go, Dawn goes over and breaks them up and is like, hey, come on now, same team, what the fuck? And Dawn's mother just out of the blue goes, we should battle. And
very weird, everyone. Just out of nowhere.
And Dawn's like, all right. And then this is when we get the intro, which coincidentally we didn't get on the Twitch version.
No.
So we skim past the old intro here, and this is a long intro.
Yes.
And holy shit, this is a long intro. And I'm still clicking. And Jesus Christ, that was like 7 clicks. So we are on to the battlefield, and it's going to be a 2-on-2 battle. And we see Dawn has her Cyndaquil and Piplup, And Dawn's mother has an Umbreon and
Glamiao.
a Glameow. God, yeah, I knew I was gonna need help. I knew it was a Meow, but I knew it wasn't a Meowth. And Dawn's mother's like, all right, but I'm not gonna hold back. And then she's like, all right, go. And Jesus Christ.
She tells Umbreon and Glamiao.
Hold on. No, I'm not letting this go. I refuse. Glameow is fine. Glameow is Neymar.
But
And I'm guessing that Umbreon
is Blackie.
that's horrible. It's awful. She's like, yeah, that's terrible. That's tisk tisk. It's 2022. And she's like, double Shadow Ball, and they're like, all right, and then they both launch simultaneous Shadow Balls, and she's like, dodge it, Cyndaquil and Piplup, and they do, and then
they just jump. Like
her
sorry.
Her mom's like, double swift attack, and Piplup and Cyndaquil do like a matrix jump off of each other to have this swift attack split the uprights, and they
evaded the attacks brilliantly.
Her mom's like, that was an awesome dodge attack, and she's like, thanks, Mom. Now it's my turn. She tells Piplup to jump, and Piplup jumps onto Cyndaquil, and they both get into the air, and Piplup uses Bubble Beam, and Cyndaquil uses Swift Attack, and the bubbles and the stars combine in a big swirling mess, and
it's actually pretty cool.
She's like, that was one of your moves for the battle rounds, and to use Shadow Claw, and she tells Umbreon to use Iron Tail, and they're running and they jump, and Glameow takes care of the bubbles, and Umbreon takes care of the swift attack. She's like, all right, Piplup, use Hydro Pump. And Piplup's like, all right, bet, this is my shot. And Piplup's getting ready, and then she tells Glameow to use... what is that?
I'm gonna look up what that move is.
Like a Sonic move. It's not Sonic Boom.
Let's see. It was Fake Out.
Okay.
So that move was Fake Out, and then she tells well, okay, I'll let you finish this battle.
Yeah, for our listeners, Glameow jumped right into Piplup's face and clapped both of its front paws. Piplup goes flying back and lands on its head.
So her mother is following the same moves that Dawn had faced in the Grand Festival finale that she had lost when she was doing that grand finale. So her mom is making sure that she's ready for when she does go back out there, because and it seems like she is, because it seems like she's been doing some training ever since then, right, Doug?
Correct. Because she picks up on it right away, and her mom's like, yeah, well,
next time you won't come in second place.
Yeah, right. You lost. So if you learn by your mistakes, even in a practice battle, you'll be ready, for the next time. And she's like, all right, I got you. And then she's like, I guess now is as good a time as any to bust out the move that I've been practicing. And her mom's like, oh. And she tells Piplup to use Whirlpool. And
Cyndaquil to use Flame Wheel.
And Cyndaquil combines with the Whirlpool, and it's just this gigantic, like, swirling ball of water and flame. And everybody's like, "Holy shit!" And then she's like, "Go!" And then they're like, "Ah!" And it's this big explosion, and Cyndaquil and Piplup come falling out of the cloud, and they land, and then they start hockey fighting, and Dawn's like, "This is ridiculous." Again, it's kind of like, you're on the same team. We're in the middle of a battle. What are you doing? How are you going to fight each other?
Yeah, because Cyndaquil was like, Piplup, you didn't do the attack right. And Piplup was like, me? That was your fault. And then they just go back and they just start swinging at each other. Like, it was just... And Dawn comes over. She's like, Cyndaquil, Piplup, in the middle of a battle, we don't fight each other. And then Dawn's mother walks over and she's like, well, I think we're done with this battle. It doesn't look like your Pokemon can continue. And Dawn gets all defeated and she's like, oh, just when we were doing so good. And her mother, again, out of nowhere. I'm starting to see why this episode didn't air here in the U.S. because reading this in English will have you just kind of like nod your head to the side. But her mother is like, as soon as she got back from her adventure with Ash, she's like, I think you should go on another journey and study some more in another festival. And Dawn's like, really? And she's like, but if I go on another journey, I'll be all by, or you'll be all by yourself. And her mother's like, I'll be lying if I say I won't get lonely, but I'll be happy to support you if you choose to go on another journey. She's like, thank you. I already have my next destination in mind. And she's like, oh, so where will you be going this time? And she's like, I'll be going to the Hoenn region. And she's like, what? And she's like, yep, that's the place where Pokemon contest starts. So I'm going to go over there and I'm going to study and I'm going to win and I'm going to be the best. Just like what is this guy's name? His name is Wallace. Everybody. And we end up seeing him later on in the Pokemon series because when Dawn does come back, we do end up seeing Wallace, but I'm not going to spoil what ends up happening there. But she says that that's the birthplace of where Wallace is, and Wallace is the champion over there, and I'm going to go and meet him, and I'm going to study with him. And she's like, but I do have a problem. And her mom's like, well, what is it? She's like, I was thinking I would stick to the basics and only use my Piplup for the journey across the Hoenn region. And that's when we get like a nice depiction of Dawn with all of her Pokemon. We see Cyndaquil sitting on top of like a nice like ice beam. And then we see Togekiss, we see Bunnery, we see Mamoswine. And she's like, but after returning home and practicing with all of them, I feel like I haven't pushed them to their full potential, as she's petting Cyndaquil and Piplup on their heads. And she's like, you're right. And then all of a sudden we get an elderly couple that have some groceries, and they're coming back to congratulate Dawn and to welcome her back into town. Doug?
They're like, it's been a while. We're glad you're healthy. We heard you were back in town. We wanted to make sure that you made it back in one piece. But we didn't get to see, I don't know who they're referring to. I mean, it's Yun in the translation, but that's not what they said. But they said, we didn't get to see him before he went off on his journey, and And Dawn's like, well, it's funny that you mention that because I think I'm going to go off again myself. And the old guy's like, it's good to have a dream when you're young. And his partner's like, do you think so? It would be better if they take it slow and don't rush things. And he's like, oh yeah, I just remembered. He's like, oh yeah, I just remembered we brought vegetables from our garden. Please take some and stay healthy. And she's like, all right, cool. And they go back, and we're in Dawn and her mother's kitchen. And like, there's no way I can take all of this with me. My backpack's only so big. And Piplup's just standing on the table like, yeah, I mean, that's ridiculous. I mean, I'm only a Piplup. I can probably only eat like one leaf. And
then we see her bag is starting.
And yeah, like you said, we see her bag starting to shake. And Quill has worked his way into the bag, question mark.
Yeah, I'm not sure if her Cyndaquil is a...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
because on the next line, she's like, what are you doing in there? And Mom's like, I think he's trying to tell you that he wants to go with you.
Yeah, because she was going to keep him behind. Like, she literally said, I'm going to take my Piplup and you're going to stay behind. Which in a recent episode, because Dawn comes back in Pokemon Journeys, she don't have her Cyndaquil with her. Or her other Pokemon, which we're going to find out later on. But she has her Piplup, and Piplup was her first Pokemon. So, I mean, of course, she favors her Piplup. But, I mean, come on. Like, all of your Pokemon want to come. It's like the Ash effect. Like, Ash, as soon as he gets a new toy, he's like, all right, off to Professor Oak you go. And we never see those Pokemon again unless he needs a strong Pokemon like Dragonite or Charizard. And then he'll bring him into the battle.
Right, it's like you said, it's the Ash Ketchum School of Pokemon Management. So she's like, I'm sorry, but I really can't decide. And then she's like, have I always been this indecisive? And then she's like, oh, but you haven't had a chance to go visit Professor
Rowan.
God, why do they have to change fucking names, for goodness? Names of things shouldn't have to change. He's like, you haven't had to go... Because it's fucking ridiculous. It's Nakamando. They've got fucking Rowan down there. She's like, oh, but you haven't gone to visit Professor Rowan yet, have you? And she's like, maybe... She's like, well, why don't you go his lab and see what he has to say about what Pokemon you should take on your new journey. And Dawn's like, that's a swell idea. And she takes off and she's in her bike. And we pan up and we see Cyndaquil and Piplup are fighting in the basket.
It's so cute. Just call your Pokemon back into their Pokemon.
Telling you. What is it with these protagonists and their adverse reactions to Pokeballs?
But
and
she ends up biking over to Professor Rowan's lab, and here we see Professor Rowan with all of his assistants, and they're looking at Pokemon and they're studying, and Professor Rowan picks up a Shuckle Shell and talks about how the shell is good and the transformation is great. And then Dawn comes running up and is like, hey, Professor Rowan. And he's like, oh, welcome back, Dawn. And he's like, congratulations on the second place in the Grand Festival. She's like, thank you. And he's like, so have you met with your mother yet? She's like, yeah, but I'm thinking about going out on another adventure to become the top coordinator in the whole world. And because of that, I couldn't decide which Pokemon to bring with me. And he's like, I'm afraid I can't help you with that. She said, what? How come? He's like, because the person who best understands your own Pokemon is yourself. And she's like, yeah, that might be true, but that's exactly the reason I can't make a decision. And he's like, well, you can be indecisive as you want because you're young and you can afford to. He's like, but just take your time before you make your decision. And as a matter of fact, there's a nice young lady that's inside my lab right now, and she's pretty indecisive as we speak. Before she goes out on her journey, she is very indecisive. But Professor Rowan, he looks down at Dawn and he's like, you're not the only one that's indecisive. There's a nice young lady inside of my lab who's kind of indecisive as well. She's getting ready to pick her first Pokemon to go out on her journey, and she can't choose. And then this is when we go inside and we're introduced to Shinko. And Shinko is the other trainer that's in this episode that is going to be a major key in this episode. Doug?
And she's standing in front of a table, and on the table we have the three starter Pokemon. We have Piplup, Chimchar, and
Turtwig.
Yeah. And she's like, and she's like thinking to herself, she's like, which one should I use? And she's like, Chimchar's a good strong fire type, and Piplup is a cute water type, and god damn it, what's that?
Turtwig.
I'll never get that. And she's like, I can't leave out Turtwig, and she's like, I can't make up this decision. And she kind of says the same line that Dawn says, have I always been so indecisive? And she's like, Jesus Christ, which one should I? And she's like tearing her hair out, and and Chimchar's like, pick me, and Piplup's like, no, it's me, and Chimchar just hits Piplup with some ember, and
because Piplup came over and just tackled him out of the way, and Chimchar's like, what the fuck are you doing? Nah, just starts spitting just spitballs of ember just right at Piplup, and we almost have a grilled penguin right on the table.
Piplup's response is to shoot one bubble, and it's a strong bubble because Chimchar jumps out of the way and it busts through the glass of a window. And Chimchar's like, "Oh, bet an opening," and he just pieces out. And Piplup's like, "Oh, you think you're slick? Huh? You think you're getting away?" He ducks out. And
I'm starting to think that Piplup is a very aggressive Pokemon, because not only is this Piplup going after the fire type, but so is Dawn's Cyndaquil and Piplup. Like, they can't get along either. So I'm starting to see that Piplup might be the problem here. Do you agree, Doug?
No, because Chimchar's kind of douchey qualities.
Well, do you blame him? I mean, he got tackled over by Piplup, didn't do anything to Piplup. Was just like, no, just pick me. And then out of nowhere just got hit. Like, no, I'm gonna nudge you, get out of here, pick me. I'm the better Pokemon.
I don't know. I mean,
you have a weak spot for water Pokemon.
No, I mean, the first response shouldn't be, I'm going to fucking grill you.
That is true. That is true.
So, yeah, the girl's like, this is terrible. And she's like, I don't, and we pan out and we go back to Dawn and Rowan, and the lab assistants are like, what was that? And Rowan's like, I don't know, let's go see. And they run over there, and we see the busted window, and she's like, what do I do? What happened? This is ridiculous, and then she's like,
She's like, the Pokemon, they ran away. She's like, they were fighting each other. Piplup was fighting with Cyndaquil, or I mean, Piplup was fighting with Chimchar. Chimchar was fighting with Piplup. They broke the glass, and they escaped. And Professor Rowan is like, yeah, this girl is Shinko. Her that is her name. She loves to study, and she comes to the lab every day to study. And she's like, yeah, I want to learn everything there is to learn about Pokemon. But I am so indecisive.
Indecisive.
They had the wrong word there. She's like, I'm so indecisive that I can't pick my first Pokemon. And Dawn's like, well, don't worry, I know how you feel, and I'm gonna help you get those Pokemon back. And she's like, will you help me? Really? Thank you. And this is when Professor Rowan is like, all right, Dawn, Shinko, both of you head to the woods, and the rest of us will look around here and see if we can find out what's going on. Which I don't understand why they would look around the lab when you literally just saw the Pokemon just bust out the window. But I mean, I guess if they came on the journey, we really wouldn't have that much of an episode if Professor Rowan went looking for the Pokemon, right?
What happened to Torchwick?
Oh, he's just chilling. He's sleeping somewhere. He didn't go anywhere.
Well, I understand that, but like he's never like referred to. You never go, oh wait, Torchwick was on the table with him. Maybe he can explain what happened. And I understand it would probably be slow as shit because he's a tortoise. But
well, they were fighting each other.
Yeah.
And you want a Pokemon that's going to obey you, and I will obey you, Shinko. So pick me. Those other Pokemon will give you a headache.
We'll give you a headache.
So
So.
Oh, sorry.
But yeah, and this is when we get our first break, and then we're in the woods, and Dawn and
Shinko
walking, and Dawn's like, you see, when you're faced with a scared Pokemon, you should approach it at eye level, and it will calm down, and it won't cause trouble. And she's like, yes, thank you. This is very educational. And she's like, way to get second place in the competition.
Like everybody is just rubbing that in her face. Like, yeah, you got second place. Yeah, you got second place. How many times are they going to remind her in this episode? You were the second best. You were not the best. You did not win. Like, I don't even think they even do that to Ash. Once Ash loses, well, I guess once Ash loses, he dips off and he finds some more people to travel with him on his journey that wasn't watching him in the previous tournament to sit there and rub it in his face. So, okay, never mind. That's why.
Yeah, I think you just came to your own conclusion. Dawn's like, thank you, and she's like, this is an honor for me to talk to somebody that was, like in the middle of shit, and I've always been a big fan of yours. And Dawn's like, oh, come on, stop. You're gonna give me a big head. And she's starting to blush a little bit. And Piplup stops and is like, and he doesn't really stop. He just kind of, he's like, hey, nobody's been paying attention to me. And she's like, oh, that's a nice Piplup. And Dawn's like, yeah, that's the first Pokemon that I chose on my journey. And Piplup's like, yep, that's right. That was me. I was the first one. And he feels like, I have heard this shit too much.
He's like, you better stop before I burn you like that Chimchar burned the other Piplup.
And she's like, Cyndaquil's Cyndaquils aren't native to this area. How did you get it? And she's like, I got an egg during a Johto festival, and it turned out to be Cyndaquil. And she's like, I see. Thank you for telling me. That's very educational. And,
she's like, your mother was once a winner of a grand festival, right? And she's like, yep, and that's why I chose to become a top coordinator, just like my mama. She's like, so you decided to join the contest from the beginning? She's like, man, I still can't decide whether to do a contest or not. She's like, you can decide after. She's like, there are knowledge that you can only there is only knowledge that you can attain just by traveling. So you can get out there and learn about the world and then make up your decision. And Shinko's like, yeah, thanks for telling me that. And from here, this is where Chimchar is being a nice little monkey, and he is swinging on a branch, and he comes down, and they're like, oh, look, there it is. And then here comes the other Piplup out of the bush and was like, yeah, you're not going to swing in that tree. And Piplup goes and tries to use Bubble Beam on Chimchar. And Chimchar's like, nope. And it swings away on a branch and starts swinging from branch to branch to branch like it's on monkey bars. And Piplup is like, no, I'm going to hit you back for frying me. Get back here. And it just starts chasing after Chimchar again. So they start chasing after the Pokemon. And this is where we get a cute little race between Cyndaquil and Piplup, and they're sitting there running after Dawn and Shinko, and Cyndaquil's like, oh, I'm gonna win, I'm gonna be faster than you, Piplup, and Piplup's like, no, you're not, I'm gonna be faster than you. So they're like tailing each other, and then it's from here that that they come to a stop in the middle of the forest, and they're looking around. They're like, man, we lost them again. And Dawn's like, don't worry, we won't give up. And she goes like, yeah, thanks for telling me, as she's writing down. She's like, oh, very educational. Good to know. We're not going to stop. We're not going to stop. I don't know why she needed to write that down. But it's at this point, and they're like, oh, what was that? It came from the other side over there. So they all start running towards the further into the woods, and this is where we see that Chimchar and Piplup have been caught in a web, and they're caught in an Ariados web, and out of the web, or from the top of the web, comes a regular Ariados, and I just want to point that out because this one is a regular one, and this is when Dawn takes out her Pokédex. And we get the Pokédex entry to find out that Ariados likes to spin webs just like a regular spider. And they're like, and Dawn's like, man, we're going to go and save you, Chimchar and Piplup. And Shinko's like, but how, Doug?
Let's see. Yes, so she's like, leave it to me. Cyndaquil, use Flame Wheel. And Cyndaquil's like, all right, bet. And he goes charging, and the web gets on fire, and it's effective to the point that it knocks Chimchar and Piplup out of the web. But unfortunately, they both land on their heads, and Piplup gets a nice
little knot.
It's a nice little goose egg, and Piplup pops up and goes, does it look like I'm okay?
And Dawn just being Dawn is like, you know what? I just saved you, so stop complaining.
Yeah, this was bullshit. I'd complain. And this is when we look over, and Shinko is drooling over Dawn's Cyndaquil, and she's like, Flame Wheel is such an awesome move. So this is very valuable information. And she's like doing little jumps and shit. And Ariados is like, I'm not done with this shit. And he shoots out. It looks like a poison attack.
I think it's
And-
poison sting is what it.
Poison
what it-
sting.
Yeah.
And Cyndaquil's like, I've got to be noble, and he like jumps in front of
Shinko.
I don't know why I just lost her name. He jumps in front of Shinko and takes the hit full on his back, and this is when Dawn looks up and sees that it's a whole I don't know what the technical term for spiders is, but a whole group of them. And I'm sure there is.
A herd of spiders.
That can't be it.
I know, but you get you listeners know what we're talking about. There's a lot of them.
You know what? Google it. It'll be one more thing that you know that I don't. She's like, there's so many of them, and they're just looking, and they're like, we've got to run, and this is when Dawn picks up Cyndaquil and Ingo picks up the escaped Piplup and Chimchar, and Dawn's like, hurry up! And Shinko's like, yes, thank you, very valuable information. And they shoot out
Line up the podcast.
and they shoot out webs to kind of keep up the chase.
That was pretty amazing. They were spitting those webs above. So if you guys can picture this, the webs are above Dawn and Shinko, and they're just spitting the web. So it's like they're running on the ground, but they're literally running from tree to tree in big, gigantic webs. Can you imagine how scary that probably is? Like if this was real life, I'd probably like almost crap my pants. I'm like, oh my God, get me out of here, get me out of here, get me out of here. They're going to get me.
Oh, I'd be dead meat. 100%. So yeah, I mean they're like doing double speed on this web bridge of their own creation, and
and they start running, and as they start running, one of the Ariados spits out a poison sting that explodes right in front of Dawn and Shinko. So they turn around. They're like, man, we're not going to escape all these Ariados. We're going to have to battle them. And Shinko's like, well, I don't got any Pokemon. So Dawn's like, well, don't worry, I do. And she throws out all her Pokemon. And in the frame, we have a Bunnery, we have a Pachirisu, we have a Mamoswine, and a Togekiss. And this is when Shinko puts down the Chimchar and Piplup. I mean, hopefully they don't run away again. And she's like, oh, good. Oh, I'm about to learn about how to battle Pokemon. Oh, cool. And she starts taking notes again. And and Dawn is like, those we got to get those Ariados out of here. So she tells all of the Pokemon, she's like, Mamoswine, Ice Beam, Piplup, Bubble Beam. Let's see what, and Bunnery or Pachirisu, Thunder, and I don't know what the other attack that she told Togekiss. Well, no, she hasn't told Togekiss to do it.
She hadn't told Togekiss yet.
But
Aria Spear.
Yes, and all of these Pokemon are getting hit, or all of these Ariados are getting hit by all of these attacks all at once. And then, yes, as Doug just said, Togekiss comes in with an Aura Spear, and Togekiss goes bah! And just blasts the Ariados, and they just go flying into the air. And then they hit the ground, and Dawn's like, all right. And Shinko is like, man, all of your Pokemon are great. And this is when Dawn's like, yeah, you just got to train your Pokemon. So when we get back to the lab, after I go over this battle, you'll be able to make a decision on which Pokemon that you want. And it's at this point that their bodies can't move. And everyone is having a hard time moving at this point. And Dawn's like, is this psychic? And she looks up, and there it is, a shiny It's labeled as a shiny Ariados. It is a purple and black and yellow and gray spider. Doug?
And Don's like, that's what I thought. We can't move because of that Ariados. And freaking Shinko's trying her absolute damnedest to move that little pencil because she's like, this is very valuable information. And she looks, and the other Ariados have recovered, and they're just staring daggers at her. And then they start shooting webs, and they essentially hogtie
Everybody.
And they're all struggling, and the Ariadoses are moving in, and they're like, they're coming towards us. And
this
Don's like, this is it.
This is it. This is my favorite line this whole episode. She can I say it, Doug?
Yeah, go ahead.
She goes like, she's like, so what are we gonna do now? And Don's like, I think we're gonna die. And she goes like, I don't want to die.
And and of course Shinko's response is, thank you for the information. And the Ariados, they're closing in, and Shinko's just crying uncontrollably, and the freaking Pokemon are just helpless, and Cyndaquil's like, this is bullshit, and he starts to evolve, and he's like, it's evolving. Dawn's like, it's evolving, and fucking Shinko's like, it's evolving, and she's trying to move her.
Thank you for the information.
She's trying her damnedest, but she can't move her pencil to her paper, and she's like, it's evolving into what's the secondary?
Quilava. Yes.
And it evolves, and it's like Quilava, and Dawn. This is bullshit, by the way. Dawn is able to pull her Pokédex out of her pocket, but Shinko can't move her pencil to her paper, so I fucking quit.
Yeah, because we needed to get the Pokédex entry in this episode. I mean, so she can outpower Psychic. So if she can take that out, how come she can't take like a sharp edge from that Pokédex and cut each other free from this the spider web?
And we find out that Lava is capable of using incredible attacks due to the flames on its back. And Dawn's like, it's going to learn a new move as well. And the shiny Ariados tries to use Psychic, but Lava is able to fight it off. And so he tries to use Poison Sting, but Lava counters with Swift Attack, and then Ariados tries to wrap up Quilava like it did with the other Pokemon, but its flames are so powerful, it's just able to just melt them off. And Quilava uses, it's called Eruption. Is that what it's actually called?
Yes. It uses Eruption.
And it knocks the Ariados off of the branch, and then it follows up with a large dose of Swift Attack to free all the Pokemon. And, they're all doing dances because they're free and they can move. And the other Ariadoses are like, well, shit.
It beat our master.
And then Quilava uses one gigantic eruption, and it just basically torches all of the Ariadoses in the area. And all the Pokemon are happy because they're free and they're out of danger. And she's like, "Thank you so much, Quilava." And then, of course, this is when Professor Rowan and all his assistants I'm running up, it's freaking
Last
like
minute.
2
I
minutes.
mean, they said they were going to stay around the lab. Why didn't they just stay? I mean, they would have came out there. None of this. Well, I guess we wouldn't have had an episode.
And then all freaking Rowan says is, "I'm glad you're okay." And then we're back in his lab, and apparently, Dawn decided that everybody can walk around without Pokeballs, and he's like, "Thanks for getting my Pokemon back." And he's like, "So, Shinko, what have you decided?" And
She goes like, "I'm not gonna choose any of them."
he's like, "You had 3 choices and you chose option 4." He's like, "What do you mean?" And she's like, "I think I'll choose only after I've learned more about Pokemon in general." And Rowan's like, "Well, that's great, but now I've got 3 Pokemon that have no homes."
And then he's like, "Well, Dawn, which Pokemon have you chosen?" And of course, Dawn actually comes up with a solution, and she's like, I'm gonna choose my Piplup, but at the end of the day, I'm also going to choose my Quilava.
And all my other ones.
Yes, and all my other Pokemon as well. I'm going to take all of them on the journey with me. And he's like, swell choice, swell choice. And
so basically, she went from going, "I'm going to start with a new deck," and then she's like, "Nah, I don't want to hit restart. I don't want to hit restart. That was too hard to get all of them."
and, it kind of bugs me because that's what Ash should do. And then anytime that he wants to use another Pokemon, just trade one of your Pokemon back and then keep the rest of your Pokemon. Maybe it'll be easier for you to get these badges if you have some high level Pokemon already. I mean, I'm sure that's what Gary's doing. So, come on.
So basically, Dawn's like, "I've got a lot to learn from all of my Pokemon, and together we'll forge a deeper bond, and this time I'll get first place."
Yes.
And and it's a sweet ending, and Rowan's like, "That's not too bad at all." And Shinko's like, "Thank you for the information." And Rowan's like, "All right, try your best." And then we see Dawn leaving in a big old ship, and basically the whole town's sitting at the dock, basically waving bye bye, and all Dawn's Pokemon
Are with her.
are with her, and she's like, "I'll be back, and I'm gonna win, and I'm gonna be the shit, and
I'm going to become the top coordinator in the whole world." Well, in the whole region, at least.
So
And
that's
it.
basically that's it.
So that was a good episode. Really good special episode. Like we said, has nothing to do with the rest of the series, but it was a nice little episode. So Doug, this outside of everything, so we don't have Ash, we don't have any of that. So how would you grade this episode?
This is a very interesting journey, a very interesting episode to grade. Because in the grand scheme of things, what did it mean? I would argue nothing. It was entertaining to watch.
Yes. So on entertainment value, what would you rate it?
This might be a little harsh, but I'm probably going to say I'm going to be generous and say 3.
Okay. I'm gonna say about I would say I was leaning more towards 4, but I'm gonna probably meet you in the middle. I'm gonna say about a 3.5. So it was a nice episode. It did mean absolutely nothing, but it was nice to see where Dawn chose to take her next adventure to. So that was really nice. In the next episode that you're gonna hear tomorrow on Black Friday, everybody. I hope everybody is safe. Just want to throw that out there.
It's all online now, isn't it?
Yeah. Well,
Basically.
basically, yeah. You'll be hearing tomorrow the next episode, which features Brock and his brothers and sisters, and what is going on with Brock over at his gym in Pewter City. So, yeah. Other than that, do you have anything else to add for this week, Doug?
No, I just hope that everybody was able to listen to this before they had that second plate of turkey and fell asleep at halftime of the second game.
I hear you. I hear you.
And if they fell asleep, at least hopefully they didn't turn off their device.
So
We got to get credit for that play.
absolutely, I'm gonna be another size up on Thanksgiving. I'm just throwing that out there. I'm gonna be a double Professor Chris G. So
That's not how that works.
that is how that works. I'm gonna eat
That's
myself, and I'm gonna be double me. I'm gonna have double the power.
Listen, whatever you do in the privacy of your own home is your business. I want nothing to do.
But I want the world to know, Dougie. All right, we're going off on a tangent, but all right. So if you don't have anything else to say, Doug, go ahead and say goodbye for the next 24 hours.
Bye, Doug.
And this is Professor Chris G telling all of you, make sure that you click that download button in 24 hours or within a few hours if you're listening to this later in the day, because the next episode is dropping soon, everybody. Have a good night, and I will see you tomorrow.